All right, it is Monday morning. We're basically mid-November now, which is pretty crazy. Time flies, I guess. So yeah, CrossFit today because it's November 11th is what's going on? Why is this beeping at me? So like I guess they call them like hero workouts. There's got to be something on the sensors to this car right now. It's beeping at me like it thinks there's something in front of me, like a leaf or something. So they have these workouts that are, man, what is this person doing? It's a green light and they're just crossing the street. Oh, they're homeless. They don't care. So they had, like, the gym I go to publishes the workout the night before. So they listed them. I think one. I'm not a CrossFit person still, so I don't know all the history and stuff. But I think the one's called Chad, I guess. But it's just like 1,000 step ups. And when I say just, I don't mean like it's easy. It's actually obscenely difficult. But like my hips are already jacked up. I'm not doing step ups for 1,000 steps. So no. And then the other workout, it's something 7, and it's like seven rounds of 7 reps of 7 exercises, and like that would be significantly more than I would be able to do. And this month my gym has sort of like their open gym classes, and so they have one at the same slot. So I just told my wife, like, I'm doing that. I'm going to go squat and bench press because those are 2 movements that doing CrossFit I don't get a lot of practice for. And those are just from my lifting days. Like, those are 2 things I don't want to regress. And they're going to because I don't do them. So it's part of it. But I said, hey, like, this is an opportunity to do it, so I'm just going to do it. So, like, easy workout for me because I got to train those movements. So my bench press is obviously down from not doing it much, but can still hit the 2 plates for a few reps. I didn't want to go any heavier and go for even like a heavy for the day because the weightlifting bars have a lot of spin to them. So when you unrack, I can feel the plates rotate. And having that rotation when you're holding weight in your wrist is a kind of a sketchy feeling. So I just stuck to some lighter weight. But anyway, that's this morning. I wanted to do, so the drive to work today, I'm going to talk about, which is the video that comes after this, I'm going to talk about, I had the person who had messaged me to talk about working with a difficult, sorry, I shouldn't say difficult engineer, maybe a little bit, an engineer that's kind of stuck and they want the best for them, and like it's kind of challenging because the engineer's getting like sort of mixed feedback. They wrote a very lengthy email, so and that's awesome. I'm not saying that in a bad way, with tons of detail. So I want to go into that on the longer drive. This one I'm going to talk about my blog migration because this has been something that's kind of been in the back of my mind for a while, and then I was using my coding live streams to just as a sort of a forcing function to get me to do it. So I'm going to talk about that on this drive. So my blog right now is hosted in on Lightsail, which is like an Amazon service. It's actually really nice for like a, I don't know, like a pain-free hosted application in a container kind of thing. So I've liked that from the simplicity perspective. It's almost like a one-touch deploy WordPress in a Amazon hosted instance, which is great. But the combination of that and WordPress for me, for my blog, has just been an absolute nightmare because there's a whole bunch of reasons. One is that like the permissions on whatever I have installed are absolutely bonkers. Like it's locked down in all the wrong ways. So a lot of WordPress functionality for me is regularly broken. For example, like certain updates and stuff, like will sporadically fail because it doesn't have access to the file paths that it should. So it's like all the permissions and ownership in the file system are way too locked down. I think that's from a plugin called WordFence. It probably tried to make everything more secure to the point where it's actually broken. So there's that, and then my blog, like between every day to every other day, is down. And when I say down, I mean two things. One used to happen. It's only the other one now, but it used to be between my instance would spike up in CPU and stay there, and it was so bad that I couldn't even remote in to do anything. So I'd have to log into the portal and literally kill the tear down the whole instance and spin it back up. And now what it's doing instead is not that, which is at least better, but the services the CPU goes up and then it drops off, like the service dies for WordPress or Apache. So I have alarms that go off every day to every other day being like, hey, like your website's down, and I'm just sick and tired of it. So Steven Giesel has a Blazor blog engine, which I did some searching because I was like, do I just go to a different provider? And I'm like, you know what? I wanted to go with WordPress in like a hosted setup like this because I want it to be completely hands off. I got other stuff to do. I don't want to be messing around with a blog. And then I found from having it, I was like, I need the control because there's too many little things that I feel pigeonholed into. So basically, if I'm gonna have to be putting my hands into it to mess around, I might as well just pick something I'm very familiar with, and picking something that's C# based is a no-brainer for me. So Steven Giesel has a Blazor blog engine. His website's on it. He's an awesome .NET developer, content creator. So is it as feature-rich as all these other platforms? No, but like it's extensible, right? And like, given that it's in C#, anything I need, I can go build. So what's been really cool though is I've been live streaming it for about a month now, once a week for a little bit. And I had my Hawaii trip in the middle. But Steven has basically joined the chat of the live streams, and he's kind of like, guiding me along, which is super cool. Sorry, everyone's slamming on the brakes. And I've been calling out, I've been trying to be very transparent about it. Like, obviously there's going to be like feature gaps, right? I'm used to some things. I have a million plugins that are doing all these different things for me. I cannot expect that his Blazor blog engine is going to do all of that out of the box. So I've just been transparent where it's like, hey, like, this is probably something I'm going to need. I'll probably have to build it. And it's been super cool because he's in the chat and watching the live stream and being like, oh no, that's a good idea. Like, let me go prototype it. So he's added short codes so I can write posts, and somewhere in the post I can use like a syntax that lets me put a little like an identifier in some markup. Then when the blog engine goes to render the blog, it will go look for short codes and basically do like a replacement. And this allows me to have reusable components that I can put into blogs. So if I wanted to put an ad for a course, not like a Google ad or something, but advertising my own products if they're related, then I can go make the ad one time, drop it in. There's lots of little things like that that I was using in WordPress. So that's one enhancement that was super cool. Another one, and I found it kind of like late, was like my newsletter. So my newsletter goes out on Substack, and that's where people can subscribe and stuff. And if they want to pay for the archive, they can. But I've always had the mentality, like, I want to own my data. So yes, my newsletter is archived on Substack, but I have and I want to maintain a mirrored archive, like the original archive of my newsletter on my website. So I need basically member access. So this way, when users subscribe for like a paid subscription through Substack, they will have mirrored access on my website as well. Like, is that extra complicated? 100%. But I don't want to be in a position where like I don't own my data, because if Substack decides to change anything that I'm not content with, I just want to be able to pick up and move. Like all my links that say like weekly.devleader.ca, I could just change the DNS to point to something else if I need to. So I just need to make sure that I have a copy of all my own data. So Steven built, I haven't integrated it yet, but he built in like a sort of like members access kind of thing. I'm gonna move over lanes here. The highway's going super slow today. It's raining, so obviously that means no one can drive properly, even though it's Seattle. Another thing Steven did for me was basically like Azure blob storage. So, well, he set up the blog engine to do uploads to it. And that's because by default, if you were making a blog post and had a picture, you need to have hosting somewhere. So he just made it like a first class thing. So what I wanted to do was do all of the work for this migration on stream, but I realized that like there's a couple things I'm like pretty uncomfortable with from a live streaming perspective. And that is when I'm in like the Azure portal, I'm still a little bit nervous. Oh, here's Maureen. I'm still a little bit nervous to stream that, because I don't want to show a screen and accidentally like have a secret pop up or like too much information. So because of that, I said, okay, look, I'm going to be streaming. So tomorrow morning, which is going to be Tuesday morning for me, depending when you're watching this, it's not going to be the same for you. And I just wanted to like get into code and not have this fear of like, oh, I got to set this up in Azure to keep going, but I don't want to show it on stream. So I just did all the grunt work to make sure that all of the pieces that I need in Azure are functioning. So what that meant was this weekend I spent some time getting the MySQL database set up. So that's configured. The blog engine can connect to it. The Azure blob storage, so that's configured. The blog engine can connect to it. Authentication in Azure, so again, it's all configured. The blog engine can access it. I didn't do the member stuff yet, so that'll be something I need to do. And then I wanted to prove, so that I could do it on stream, I wanted to prove that I could basically take stuff from my previous blog and basically dump it into the new blog. So I wrote a very, very simple console application that connects to it's actually in the same database, but connects to the one table. I guess, no, how do I explain this? It's the same server and different databases on the server. So connects to the source database, which is my existing WordPress. And then also connects to the destination. It can copy records over. So now that framework's all in place, I can go back to the content from the previous stream, which was great. We have a blog post. How do we need to modify this blog post so that it can be compatible on the new blog? So to give you examples, right, I'm going to have to repoint all of my content. So, sorry, I shouldn't say content. Repoint all of my my images, my uploads. So every image that's going to be added when I make the blog post, or migrate the blog post, I should say, they're all going to be pointing to the previous location, which I'm going to be tearing that down. So what I did was I went to my WordPress install. I basically took every picture, re-uploaded it to Azure Blob Storage. So I already have a copy. It's in the same structure. And I just need to change the prefix of every resource to be the CDN that I'm using for Azure Blob Storage. So that means in the migrator, I'm going to have to write something that checks, like if it looks like a path for an upload, just change it to the new CDN location. And again, I just have to change the prefix. So that's one example of like a migration that will have to happen. What else? There's things like every blog post I have my goodness, sorry. Every blog post I have has a table of contents in it that was done with the WordPress plugin. Now, Steven's blogs have like a built-in table of contents, but I was thinking about this more. His table of contents shows up in like a drop-down, and I think, I could be wrong, but I think for SEO purposes, having a table of contents at the top that's actually like in the text is supposed to be helpful. I think it was at some point. So I might look into that so that I can drop in something that will render a table of contents in the article at a given point. So maybe that's like a short code or something I drop in that does a table of contents for us. So there's that. There's a few things like, and some of this stuff, like you might, be a software developer and you're like, oh, I understand what you're saying. But if you're not like, if you don't create blogs and try to do SEO optimization, and I'm not an expert by any means, but some of this might not seem obvious. There's some SEO optimizations where you can put an FAQ into your articles, just a frequently asked questions. And you probably use like Google or other search engines where you search something and you see like related questions come up. And then if you expand the question, it gives you the answer. So if you want your stuff to show up potentially there, you need to have like these FAQs, which are like a specifically marked up type of syntax in your articles. And then the Google bot can pick those up and index them. It's kind of like if you were to search for a recipe on Google, you can put like marked up recipes into your blog articles, and then the search engine knows like how to index that. So there's lots of little things like this that I had plugins for that I'm going to have to try and recreate. Now, the first pass of this to go import everything is not going to be right or complete. It's going to be partial. There's no way around that. But what's cool is that I can use this migrator to basically like I already have a copy of all my existing blog posts. I can use this migrator to basically drop anything that I've imported, and I can filter by like the post or the date range or something. I can drop anything that I've migrated and then say, great, like re-import it and apply all the transforms again. So this way, if I'm like, oh crap, I didn't handle the table of contents thing properly. Now I finally understand how to do it. I want to go reapply that to all of my blog posts. What I'll be able to do is just re-import them, so I don't have to go by hand and manually do it. So I'm pretty excited because that's gonna just take a huge burden away from me on managing this stupid WordPress site. It's way more performant already. Everything about it's just better. So I'm excited. So that's this video. Drive to work, like I said. So the next video, I'm going to talk about the senior engineer that's kind of stuck, and this manager's trying to help them. And there's a bit of a weird dynamic going on there. So we will check that out in the next drive. Take care.